in Toxted, and this part is called the Jingle, and this is where Ringo Starr was born, or Richard Starkey to give him his real name. Ringo, the oldest of the Beatles, born the 7th of July 1940, and he was born at number 9 Madden Street. But has anyone seen the television series Peaky Blinders? Yeah, it's actually starting again tonight, the 5th series. But this is where it was all filmed, in this area. In fact, the most famous street in Birmingham, Garrison Street, is actually this next street on your left-hand side. So this was the film location set for Peaky Blinders, this street. Did you know that, guys?
No.
So when you have a look tonight and see, and you'll notice.
Garrison Street.
So there's another couple of series to come, but it's starting tonight. But this is where Ringo was born, guys. If you look down on the left, I know it's very difficult to see, but you might see a little monkey hanging from one of the windows there. If you count the windows along. So that was where Ringo was born, in that house. He lived there with his mother and father, Richard and Elsie. But when he was 3 years old, his mother and father split up. The dad, Richie, moved out the house to the very end house at the end of the street. He moved back in with his parents. So that meant Elsie now was not only stuck next to her ex-husband, but the dreaded in-laws as well. It wasn't good, the war was going on. But she loved the area, she didn't want to move away from the area, so she waited till just after the Second World War, and then she got an exchange with a friend of hers. But she didn't move very far. She moved from number 9 Madden Street there, all the way across the road to number 10 Admiral Grove. So if you look down now, on your right hand side, it's the White House with the pink round the windows, if you can see that. So Ringo spent the next 17 years in that house. All through his formative years, he had his 21st birthday party in there. Still wasn't with the Beatles, with a band called Rory Stone and the Hurricanes. They were at his party, Jerry and the Pacemakers, Cilla Black, the Big Three, and of course the Beatles did actually turn up for the party there. But his mother used to come back from this pub here and she'd sing all the old songs to Ringo growing up. And one of her favourite songs was his Doris Day number, Sentimental Journey. So when the Beatles split up in 1970, as a tribute to his mother, Ringo brought the first solo album out, and that is the actual album cover, the Empress Pub there.
Who is that?
I think John Lennon's been round here. He forgot to take his Rolls Royce on with him. So that was the school Ringo went to, just on your left-hand side, St. Silas Primary School. But Ringo was a very sickly child, believe it or not. All in all, he probably spent about 2.5 years in hospital. When he was 6 years old, he was in a coma for 12 weeks. Nearly died on 3 occasions. He had peritonitis. And then when he was in secondary school, long spells in hospital again with pleurisy and tuberculosis. So absolutely mega illnesses for Ringo growing up. And most people think he was the luckiest guy in the world. Not only did he survive his childhood, but he got in the Beatles as well. How lucky was Ringo? But Ringo would tell you actually it was the Beatles that were lucky to have him. Because he said he was the best drummer around at the time. His classmate, some of you might remember, you guys will remember, his classmate went on to become one of the biggest rock and rollers in this country. His name was Ronald Wycherley, otherwise known as
Billy Fury.
Billy Fury. Yeah, Billy Fury, guys. He was the Elvis Presley of this country. Another sickly child I might have. Now Ringo didn't actually join the band till the August of 1962. He was the final piece of the jigsaw, if you like. But in August 1960, the lads were off to Hamburg and they needed a drummer. The original drummer, Colin Hanson, had left the band in 1959. He's just brought out a book last year called Prefab, and they are actually making a film out of that at the moment as we speak. But of course, they needed a drummer. They done a tour of Scotland early 1960 as the Silver Beatles. The drummer was a guy called Tommy Moore. He was quite a lot older than the lads, so he just didn't get on with them. When they got back to Liverpool, he left the band. But Alan Williams said, you're not going to Hamburg unless you've got a drummer. The lads said, we know a guy called Pete Best, and I'm sure if we asked Pete to come and join the band, it'd be made up. Peter backed them a couple of times at the Casbah Club. It was Pete's mother, Mona Best, who owned the Casbah Club, and the Quarrymen did officially open the Casbah Club 29th of August 1959, so they were well aware of each other. But the lads got him to audition down at the Blue Angel Club just to keep everything legal and above board. But it was a done deal he was going to get in the band because he had his own drum kit, which meant the Beatles didn't have to buy another drum kit. So after he went to Hamburg, Pete stayed with them for 2 years, played with them over 2,000 times. Then in the August of 1962, he was unceremoniously sacked from the band. Now even to this day, no one really knows why Pete got the sack from the band. You know, there was lots of theories put forward at the time. He didn't have the same sense of humour as the other guys. When the lads got them up top haircuts, he refused. But more importantly, he was the good-looking guy in the band. So that was a big bone of contention for the likes of John, Paul and George. They didn't like the idea of all the girls coming to see the drummer in the band when they were playing the guitars and singing at the front of the band. And in fact, when he did get the sack from the band and Ringo came and joined them and played the Cavern for the first time with the Beatles, he was absolute murder in the Cavern. Mona Best was on one side of the stage trying to batter him. George Harrison got a black eye off one of the fans on the other side of the stage. But all the girls were screaming, Pete forever, Ringo never. Pete forever, Ringo never. Poor old Ringo didn't know what it hit him. But it did come to a climax when they went down to London to record the debut single Love Me Too. Ron Richards wasn't happy with Pete Best's drumming. They used a session drummer, a Scottish drummer by the name of Andy White. George Martin agreed with him, and that was the excuse the lads were looking for to get him out the band. He just went up to Brian Epstein and said, get him out the band, we want Pete out, we want Ringo in. And that was it. Poor old Pete was sacked from the band. For the next 30 odd years he was in the wilderness really. He went to work for the local authority. Then in 1995 the Beatles brought a compilation set out called Anthology. Happy to say Pete was on 11 of the tracks and he got a big massive payout. They reckon he got between 8 million and 9 million pounds. So a happy ending to that story. Just over on your right hand side there, Sefton Park, the second largest park in the country. That's where John Lennon's mother and father met in 1930, and it was also in that park George Harrison donated a substantial amount of money for the restoration of the second largest palm house in the country. It's only Kew Gardens bigger than this one, and only Hyde Park bigger than the park. So if you look across to the right, you'll see the palm house over in the distance there through the trees. Penny Lane, not just any lane, but the world famous Penny Lane. And it'll be a quick opportunity to get off and get your photographs at the street signs of Penny Lane. But if you're not from this country, I do have to point out we drive on the wrong side of the road, so just be very careful of the traffic, guys. There's even a psychopath here, so watch out for the psychopaths. Cyclists. So it's just going to come up on your left, Penny Lane. And as we turn onto Penny Lane, you'll see Liverpool College just in front of us and to the right as we turn onto Penny Lane. One of the many colleges that Brian Epstein was expelled from. So the signs here on both sides of the street as we drive in. Help each other out with your photographs, guys. But as I say, my advice, stay on the pavement or the sidewalk.
We'll get a photo in a minute.
So traffic can be quite busy here, and they won't stop for you, to be honest with you. Right-hand side coming up is Dovedale Road. At the bottom of Dovedale Road is a primary school where John Lennon and George Harrison went to school. So just on your right here down the bottom. And then Dovedale Towers, the white building here, this is where the Quarrymen used to practice and enter competitions. Freddie Mercury from Queen actually lived here for about 9 months as well. And then just on your left, the famous fish and chip shop that's mentioned in the song Penny Lane. Just in front of you, you'll see the shelter in the middle of the roundabout where Pretty Nurse sold poppies from a tray. That Pretty Nurse was a girl called Bette Davidson. She went on to marry John Lennon's mate Pete Shotton. Just over to the right of that is the bank, where the banker never wore a map in the pouring rain, very strange. And you'll see St Barnabas Church just on the right here as well. Paul McCartney was a choir boy in St Barnabas Church. So this was the hub, this is where you'd meet on a daily basis. And the barber shop is coming up on your left hand side. So if you just look over to your left now, Tony Slavin's, originally an Italian guy called Harry Bialetti. So just on your left, that's the famous barber shop. That's where Paul McCartney, when he was doing his carpool karaoke, sneaked in there. Scared the living daylights out of the hairdressers in there. But he said, don't touch me hair. So just on the right hand side here, Newcastle Road, John Lennon lived at number 9, Newcastle Road. If you look down, the 5th door down on the left, 2 black columns by the white van. When he was born at Oxford Street Maternity Hospital in the city centre, his mother brought him back to her parents' house. And that's where he stayed till he was 5½. Just on your left here again, for Peaky Blinder fans, this was Thomas Shelby's Foundation for Children, the Blue Coat School. Hey. Called Wavertree, and this is where my favourite Beatle was born, George Harrison. George, the youngest of the Beatles, born on 25th of February 1943, and he was born at number 12 Arnold Grove. He lived here with his 2 older brothers, Harry and Peter, his older sister Louise, and his mother and father, Harry and Louise. There were 6 of them living in a 2-bedroomed house. Very humble beginnings for George. We're going to get off the coach and we're going to walk down to number 12 Arnold Grove. But I do need to point out we have to be very respectful to the people living down here. And Kathy, the lady who lives in number 12, has just come out of hospital. She's been quite ill the last couple of weeks in hospital. She's in her 80s now. So if you can just bear that in mind when we walk down here, guys, and try to keep the noise down to a minimum. No peeking in the windows or knocking on the doors, okay. If any of the doors are open as well, by the way, guys, it doesn't mean we can walk in the houses for a cup of tea, okay. So just bear that in mind as well. But take a photograph of number 12, take a photograph of the street sign Arnold Grove, because that was the name George used to use when he was signing in and out of hotels. That was his alias. And a good friend of his, Eric Clapton, would invite him up on stage under that name. And while he was doing that, he'd steal his wife off and Patty Boyd. Wish I had a mate like that. So, follow me down. It's a little bit uneven underfoot, guys, so just be careful as we walk down here. Original lock-up. I've spent many a happy night there, drunk but not disorderly. Okay. We'll slowly go past there. 197 Queen's Drive, this big double-fronted White House with the 2 lollipop trees there. Paul McCartney had his champagne 21st breakfast party in the front room there. And of course, John Lennon would have gone to that house quite often in the early days of the Beatles. The Epstein family were Lithuanian refugees. They were actually on the way to America, but they ran out of money in Liverpool and they started a little furniture and piano business up. They became hugely successful. Brian's parents took over the business, made it more successful, and eventually Brian and his brother Clive came into the business. He was selling records from the furniture shop. He bought a little record shop next to it, and that was the start of the Nems music stores. They were all over Merseyside at one point. And it became Brian's management company name when they went down to London in 1963, NEMS Enterprises. And as I say, it was just an abbreviation of that first little record shop, North End Music Store. But it was a record that the lads had made over in Hamburg that got Brian interested in them. The record was by a singer called Tony Sheridan. The Beatles just backed him. They took the name the Beat Brothers, and the song was called My Bonnie. Got to number 5 in the German hit parade, but the lads brought copies of it back to Liverpool, gave it to the local DJs. Bob Muller from the Cabin was one of them DJs, and once they started playing it, all the fans would inundate the record shop saying, "Have you got that song by the Beatles?" But as I say, it wasn't in their name, so it was very difficult to track down. Brian tracked it down to Hamburg and he ordered a small quantity of them records in. As soon as they came in, they sold out. Then he ordered another small quantity, they sold out. Then another small quantity, they sold out. And then he thought, he best find out a bit more about this band. His assistant, Alistair Taylor, said, "Well, it's the Beatles. They're playing on the Cavern at lunchtime today. Why don't you go round and have a look?" So the 9th of November 1961, Brian and Alistair went round to the Cavern to see what all the fuss was about. Brian fell in love with them, wanted to manage them, but Alan Williams was technically still looking after the band, even though he fell out with them months prior to this because the lads wouldn't give him his 10% commission when they were over in Hamburg. But Brian, being a professional guy, went and saw Alan, said, "What do you think of this band?" Alan Williams said, "I wouldn't touch them with a barge pole. The worst band I've ever come across in my life." Brian said, "I'd like to manage them." Alan Williams said, "You can have them for nothing. Take them off my hands." So there's Alan Williams just give the Beatles away for nothing. He did go on to write 2 best-selling books telling everyone how stupid he was, the man who gave the Beatles away, and his follow-up book was called A Fool on the Hill. Alan sadly died 2.5 years ago, so a great loss to the music industry in this city. You know, it was Alan that started all the bands going over to Hamburg. But Brian went back to the lads, got them under contract, and the rest, they say, is history. But it was that song, My Bonnie, that started it all off. On the 6th of July 1957, it was at St. Peter's Church Fete. The Quarrymen were performing here that day. But John and Paul had a mutual friend, a guy called Ivan Vaughan. Ivan Vaughan had grew up with John, went to Dovedale Road School with him. But when John went off to Quarrybank High School, Ivan Vaughan's mother said, "There's no way you're going to the same school as that John Lennon. He's a bad influence on you." So Ivan went to the Liverpool Institute at the same time as Paul McCartney. Paul and Ivan got on great together from day one. They shared the same birth date, the 18th of June, 1942, and both of them could play the guitar. So it was a great talking point for them. But Ivan had said to Paul, "You need to come along and meet my mate John Lennon. I think if you meet John Lennon, something good's going to happen." So they came along that day. Paul watched the Quarrymen with Ivan in the afternoon, and then when they were setting up in the church hall for the evening performance, Paul went across and introduced himself to John. Made a big impression with him, took his guitar off him, flipped it upside down because he's left-handed, tuned it in perfectly for him, then done a couple of numbers, Eddie Cochran's 20 Flight Rock and Gene Vincent's Bebopaloola. John was over the moon with this kid, but he didn't want to tell him that, so he took the guitar off him. Paul went across to the piano and done a couple of Jerry Lee Lewis numbers and said, "I've got to go home." That was it, off he went home. That night, once they'd finished performing, Pete Shotton turned around to John and said, "That kid was really good today. Not only could he sing, play the guitar and the piano, but he could tune your guitar in as well. That'll save us paying people to tune your guitar in." And John said, "You're right, get him in the band." So he was asked to join. He didn't join straight away. He waited till after the holidays, and then he joined. Played the first gig with them in the October of 1957. So St. Peter's Church up on your left-hand side here, that's where he actually performed in the afternoon. The church hall is over on the right-hand side where they met. And also there's a Catholic church here, St. Mary's, and that's where Cilla Black's funeral went from. So the church hall, the red brick building with the apex roof set back, that's where they actually met in there. And then just as we slowly drive through, just over to your right, you'll see, your left, sorry, just over on your left-hand side, you'll see the grave of Eleanor Rigby. The third row back, the third grave in. So where the angel on the cross is, it's two behind it. It's got John Rigby on the top, halfway down, Eleanor Rigby. And then there's a Mackenzie just on the front, although Paul says it's just a coincidence. The church in the church hall is open all this week because of International Beatleweek as well, by the way, guys. We built a big Victorian manor house here, and that was bequeathed to the Salvation Army, and it opened up in 1934. It opened up as an orphanage for girls in 1935. It later went on to become a children's home, and it was operational right up until 2005. So we're just going to pull in here very shortly, and you'll be able to get off and get your photographs at the gates. But you can see what's there now. It is actually going to be open to the public very shortly. It's a new centre of excellence for young adults with learning difficulties. They're going to teach them culinary skills. So there's going to be a restaurant, a cafe, and of course it's going to be really good for the public. So we'll just let them guys get the photographs, guys, and then we'll get off. John used to climb the wall and the trees here with his mates, Ivan Vaughan, Pete Shott and Nigel Worley. They catch you climbing the wall and the trees, they're going to hang you. John used to look at it and say, they're not going to hang me, maybe. There's nothing to get hung about. But that's where it comes from in the song. Strawberry Field, like them up the door, he's doing his spiel now. Okay guys, so you want to get off? Yeah. So yeah, it's actually going to be opened up to the public in a couple of weeks' time, Strawberry Field, so you're all going to have to come back again. Yeah, the 14th of September. You're all right, yeah. Well, they'll come back because they want to go in there. So. So we're just going to drive up and have a look at John's Aunt Mimi's house now. John was taken off his mother because of her lifestyle. Came to live with his Aunt Mimi. His mother was in the background, you know, she was keeping tabs on him. When Mimi's husband died in 1955, you know, Julia became a regular visitor to the house. So she was teaching John the ukulele and banjo. She bought him his first guitar. But Mimi's husband died in 1955, and of course, 15th of July 1958. So it's amazing in this city, you buy a Rolls Royce and you just start doing tours. I suppose he's got to pay for it some way. It's a lot of money to pay to do a tour, I think. So yeah, he's moving up now. So this is the house just on your left here. We don't actually get off here, guys, but we will be stopped while you get your photographs. John Lennon's bedroom is the one with the curtains drawn on the left-hand side up there. The blue plaque is given by English Heritage. If you've been dead for 20 years and you're still famous, you get a blue plaque. Nothing to do with the Beatles or Liverpool, it's English Heritage that give out the blue plaques. Yeah, after the 15th of July 1958, Julia was visiting. John went up to the art college. He said, I'll see you tonight at your house, but he didn't get to see his mother alive again. That night when she left here, as she crossed the road, where the bus stop is, just on the other side of the road there, she was knocked over and killed instantly. John said he'd lost his mother twice, once when he was 5 and again when he was 17, and it made him very bitter and angry. The reason for that, it was an off-duty policeman that knocked his mother over. They reckon he was drunk, he was a public inquiry, and he got off with it. So I just want you to understand why John lost all faith with the establishment after that. You know, he really did go off the rails, drinking, getting into trouble. But not to be outdone, Rooney did get him another guitar, but she used to always say to him, the guitar is all well and good, John Lennon, but you're never going to make a living out of it. Height of the Beatles fame, 1965, he bought a lovely cottage down in Sandbanks, Poole and Dorset, and he got a plaque made with them words on, the guitar is all well and good, John Lennon, but you're never going to make a living out of it, and he put it on the living room wall, just to let him know that it was the guitar that made him famous. Plaque stayed on the house till she died in 1991. When he went in to clear the house out, the plaque was still up on the wall. It just wasn't on the living room wall, it was on the toilet wall. So use your own imaginations with that one. I like to think that after John died, every time she went to the toilet, it must have brought a smile to her face. Probably a little tear at times as well. But John wanted to keep this house in 65, but she said, no, that part of your life's over and done with, let it go. It was sold off, came back on the market again in 2002, and it was bought by Yoko Ono. Yoko put the house back to the way it looked when John lived there, and she donated it to the National Trust, so it's a museum now, you can do tours there. Paul McCartney's house is also a National Trust house, so if you want to do that tour, it costs about £30, you get an hour in each house. But I can tell you it's absolutely sold out for the next couple of weeks. Cemetery, that's where John Lennon's mother Julia is buried. It's also where Cilla Black was buried 4 years ago actually, August 2015. Stops, it's the McCartney home. The McCartneys moved here in 1955. Paul's mother Mary was a midwife. She used to work out in the community delivering babies. He got told once they moved here though they'd never have to move again. But it was a short-lived happiness. Within 6 months of moving in, she was diagnosed with breast cancer and died very suddenly. Paul was only 14 at the time, his younger brother Mike was only 12. So in 1956 they lost their mother, 57 he joined the Quarrymen, 1958 John lost his mother. So we're going to walk down Falkland Road to number 20, and he reckoned he could have been up to 100 songs actually wrote in this house. In the late 20s, early 30s. And the piano in that house was bought from the Epstein family shop. That bus in front of us, by the way, the 86 bus, that would have been the bus Paul would have waited for every morning there with his younger brother Mike. When they were going into the institute, George Harrison would have been up on the top deck waiting for them. Still the same number bus to this day as it was back then, the 86. But Paul's dad was teaching Paul music. When his mother died, straight away at the age of 14, he started composing music. So by the age of 15 he wrote songs like I'll Follow the Sun, When I'm 64. When he was 16, Love Me Too. A little bit later on I saw her standing there. Please Please Me album was pretty much wrote there. So lots of great songs were actually wrote in that house. Paul's dad bought Paul a trumpet for his 14th birthday, and Paul was quite proficient at the trumpet. But he said to his dad, I don't really want to play the trumpet because I can't sing and chat the girls up. Can I change it for the guitar? So his dad said, of course you can. So he changed it for the guitar. He was also getting piano lessons off a guy that was on the other side of the road to the bus stop, Eric Mill. And of course they had a drum kit in the house as well. Paul's younger brother Mike used to play the drums. And I always remember the famous interview John gave when they asked him, was Ringo the best drummer in the world? And he said he's not even the best drummer in the Beatles. And he was referring to Paul being a better drummer than him. When John wrote Strawberry Field over in Almeria in Spain in 1966, he was filming How I Won the War, played the part of Private Gripweed. Started wearing them iconic round-rim spectacles in public for the first time. But it was his co-star Michael Crawford. He was talking about the childhood. Strawberry Field came into the conversation, and that's why John actually wrote it in Almeria in Spain. Came back to London and said to Paul, wrote this great song about my childhood. Paul just said, okay, I'll write one about mine, and he actually wrote Penny Lane. Came out as a double A side in 1967, but it didn't actually get to number one. It was kept off the number one spot by Engelbert's Humperdinck, Please Release Me, Let Me Go. But the fire station that was mentioned in the song Penny Lane was just over to the right here, as we go through the traffic lights. If you look on your right, it closed down a couple of years ago because of all the cutbacks in the city. But it was just Paul reminiscing, getting the bus backwards and forwards to school. If you look over to the right, the shelter, the barber shop, and the bank, and on the left, St. Barnabas and Penny Lane. About his mother, when everything was going wrong with the Beatles, he said he had a dream that his mother come to him. She was just saying, stop worrying about everything, Paul. Everything will be fine, just let it be. So, great song. Because we had a great one of Paul, we need a great one of John now. We opened its doors the 16th of January 1957. It was a young Liverpool accountant by the name of Alan Sitner. He'd been over to Paris, went on a lovely Parisian cellar jazz club called Le Caveau on the Rue de la Huchette, which is still there to this day, by the way, guys. Just on the left bank there, just across from Notre Dame Cathedral. Great place. But he loved it that much, he thought, I've got to come back to Liverpool and start something similar. Came back, found the premises on Matthew Street. It was an old fruit and veg cellar warehouse, and that was it. The Cavern Club was opened up. For the next couple of years, it remained a premier jazz club outside of London. All the famous jazz musicians and artists of the time performed there. But in 1960, it made that transition over to a rock and roll venue. The Beatles performed on the Cavern officially 292 times, but every famous band in the world has performed on the Cavern. The likes of the Rolling Stones, The Who, The Kinks, Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Wonder, Eric Clapton, Elton John, Rod Stewart, Petula Clark. All the Liverpool bands performed there. Billy J. Kramer and the Dakotas, The Foremost, Jerry and the Pacemakers, the Mersey Beats, Cilla Black, of course, and modern day greats like Adele, Oasis, Jessie J, the Arctic Monkeys, the Coral Player, Elbow, Jake Bug, Joe Bonamassa, Steve Van Zandt. They've all performed on the Cavern. Now your little ticket, by the way, guys, that only gets you in and out of the Cavern once today. Normally that would get you in and out all day and all night, but because it's International Beatleweek, it only lets you in and out just once today. So pick your time when you want to go and just stay in there the rest of the night. So, but yeah, show behind the barn, you'll get a little souvenir postcard off them as well. And of course, if you want food, there's a lovely restaurant facing the Cavern Club called Festival. Has anyone tried it yet? Festival restaurant. You get 15% off your food bill if you show that card as well. It's a lovely restaurant. It's owned by the Cavern and Ben Brazil. And right next to the festival is the Cavern pub as well. So there's live music going on in there, bands playing. So there's a couple of bands playing on both stages in the Cavern pub. There's bands on the Cavern pub. And but if you're going up to Adelphi any time today, there'll be bands playing in every room up there. And tonight all the bigger bands will be on throughout the night. So is anyone going to Adelphi at all today? Yeah, so I'll be in there late. Oh yeah, you've got your wristband back there, people with the wristbands, yeah. I'll probably pop in for a couple of hours later on tonight when I finish here. So yeah, yeah, use your card, that's all I can say. If you have enjoyed your tour and you use any of the social media outlets, TripAdvisor, things like that, feel free to leave a comment about the tour. We do welcome feedback. Although I did notice just recently, someone did actually put, it was alright if you like the Beatles.
There's no such thing as a free lunch.
Every street in the world that's got a cathedral either end of it. So you get a lovely view now of the Anglican Cathedral. Well, worth a little visit in if you're spending time in Liverpool. I would recommend that you visit the two cathedrals, both of them are amazing in their own right. So just over to the right of us as well, Gambia Terrace. This is where John Lennon lived, with Stuart Sutcliffe, who was the bass player with the band for nearly 2 years. Sadly died over in Hamburg at the age of 21 from a brain hemorrhage. Really sad part of the Beatles' early history. Bill Harry lived there with them. George Harrison stayed there a while. I'm sure quite a lot of the girls from the art college in front of us stayed there. Cynthia definitely would have stayed there, John's first wife, they met at the art college. So this is the art college just on the left. Right next to it, if you look down Mount Street in a second, you'll see the 4 columns of the Institute where Paul and George went. So Paul and George on the right, John and Stuart on the left hand side there. The Institute closed down in 1986. Paul donated a couple of £1 million to get it up and running again as LIPA, the Liverpool Institute for Performing Arts. And Paul comes back on a regular basis to give master classes to the students and also to give out the degrees and diplomas. He was here a couple of weeks back giving out the degrees and diplomas. Just on the left, Dry Street, there's a lovely little pub down there, Ye Crack, where the lads used to go from the art college. So just down on the left. And then on the right hand side, Faulkner Street, Brian Epstein had a flat down the bottom on the right, number 36, and that's where John and Cynthia lived when they first got married, the August of 1962. And they were told not to let anyone know they were married, but John went and wrote a song about it. Listen, do you want to know a secret you promised not to tell? So it was a big hit for Billy J. Kramer and the Dakotas, but he actually wrote it in 36 Faulkner Street. So just on the right here, this is where Paul gives out the degrees and diplomas every year from LIPA.
Last night.
And then, did anyone see the carpool karaoke, Paul McCartney and James Corden? This is the pub where he had his impromptu karaoke gig, the Philharmonic pub. Another pub I'd highly recommend, well worth a little visit in there. It's a grade 2 listed building, but it's actually got a grade 1 listed gents toilet inside. Have you been in the gents toilet? No. You must be the only woman I know that's never been in the gents toilets in there. No. Most women I know have been in the gents toilet. They all want to go in and have a look at the gents toilet.
You don't have to queue in the lady. You have to queue in the ladies, that's why. Yeah,
well, don't walk in willy-nilly. Knock on the door, okay? Many a time I've been in there and women have just walked in. They were very impressed, near it. But yeah. So, just in front of us, you'll see the Metropolitan Cathedral of Christ the King, affectionately known as Paddy's Wigwam in Liverpool because of the Irish connection and the shape of it. The 4 bells on the front are the 4 evangelists, Matthew, Mark, Luke and John. In Liverpool, they're known as John, Paul, George and Ringo. John Lennon was born just behind the Everyman Theatre here. It was Oxford Street Maternity Hospital. Brian Epstein was born at number 4 Rodney Street, and that was the very first American embassy in the world. Also, just coming up very shortly on the left, number 64. This is where John married Cynthia in the August of 1962. So the black door just coming up on your left now. So the old YMCA just on your left there. It's now at Hotel Hatters. And then just as we come down to the bottom of Mount Pleasant, you'll see the Adelphi Hotel, just to the right of us here. And that's where it's all going on today. So we're just coming onto Lime Street now. And the Beatles did actually do a song about Lime Street. It was on the Let It Be album. and it went a little bit like this. Lime Street, Maggie May was a true story. She was a famous lady of the night. Or some people say Liverpool's nighttime economy. But she was the first female to be conscripted out of Liverpool. She was sent to Australia, believe it or not. City railway in the world between Liverpool and Manchester, 1826 to 1830. Further along on the right you've got the Empire Theatre. The Beatles performed there 11 times altogether. Very last time the 5th of December 1965. And then just in front of us you've got our beautiful civic building, St George's Hall. 1854, Harvey Lonsdale Elms was the architect there. And in 2008 Ringo performed up on the roof there. I was standing just down here. What a great concert that was. The old European capital of culture, but I don't think we're going to be doing that again if we're not in Europe. The building's over to the right behind it. You've got the World Museum, Central Library and the Walker Art Gallery, all free to go in. We're going to be coming on to Dale Street, one of the original 7 streets of Liverpool. And we got our charter off King John in 1207. The city was laid out in the letter H. And this was one of the original 7 streets just up ahead of us as we turn left onto it. Also, you'll see the town hall as we turn onto it, right down the bottom end. That dates from 1754. John Wood from Bath was the architect. And when the Beatles made the Hard Day's Night movie and the album, they had a big civic reception in the town hall straight ahead of us. And he stood on that balcony in June 1964 and 200,000 people turned out that day to see them. What a reception they got that day. But I always tell people, no matter what city in the world you're in, look up at the buildings. It tells you a great deal about the city. So we're shortly going to be finishing the tour, guys. We're pretty much on time. We've done really well today, being on time. So I'd just like to thank Ross for getting us round safely. A big round of applause to Ross, everyone. While I've been chatting away, Ross has been keeping his eye on the road, which is no mean feat nowadays. And I'd just like to thank everyone for coming on the tour. It's been a great pleasure to meet you all today. I hope you've enjoyed the tour, learned a bit more about the city, a bit more about the Beatles, and do enjoy the rest of your stay in this lovely city of ours. Just make sure, guys, when you're getting off that you take all your personal belongings with you when you're getting off. I say this at the end of every tour, and it's amazing the things people leave behind. Someone actually left a wheelchair once. Can you believe it, a wheelchair? I mean, I know the tour's good, but it's not miraculous. So just make sure you've got everything with you. And you will notice when you get off, there's a little plastic box at the front. That's there for any optional tips or gratuities if you'd like to show your appreciation to Ross or myself. But you know, it's more important that you'd enjoy the rest of your stay in the city. That is far more important than anything. So we're just going to go past Matthew Street now. It's just coming up on your left, not Victoria Street, but the next one, where it says the gallery. And in fact, if you want to buy any Beatles t-shirts or anything like that, that's probably the cheapest place to buy them in Liverpool. You can buy your cabin material down in the Cabin Club or up at the Adelphi today. So just on your left there, that is Matthew Street. We're literally going to pull up just by Debenhams here, and it's a 2-minute walk back for you.